Presented to you by Ram Trucks on this Friday. Happy May 1st, everybody out there. We hope you are safe. We hope you are well and ready to smile on a Friday. It's the last hour of our show. Peter Schrager, Nate Burleson, Kyle Brandt. My name is Kay Adams. Let's talk a little Bengals, shall we? A little free agency in this lead block.
Yeah. Lead block.
Lead block. Lead block.
Lead block it is. Here's the deal. The Bengals announced yesterday they've released quarterback Andy Dalton, tweeting Andy has not only been an outstanding player on the field, but a role model in the Cincinnati community for the last 9 years. Thank you for everything, Andy. So, first overall pick, Joe Burrow will be the starter for these Bengals. We talked about Tua having to battle it out a little bit for his starting gig down there in Miami. Jordan Love obviously is going to be in a holding pattern, keeping the bench nice and warm in Green Bay, holding a clipboard. So let's take this from a Chargers perspective, Kyle. What's the ideal scenario for day one starter? Is it, Herbert? Is it Tyrod Taylor? What's going on out there?
It's tricky, and it's really tricky this year. We're into the unknown with what's going on in August, September, Los Angeles with Stadium. So let's kind of make this evergreen here. I think it's some do's and don'ts, all right? What you don't do is start Justin Herbert in any way for PR reasons, because you think fans are interested or because it's going to open some sort of venue. One, that's a terrible football decision. Two, I promise you, no one in Los Angeles really cares that much to go and buy tickets because Justin Herbert is starting instead of Tyrod Taylor. It's not the way the town works. The other thing, Hugh Jackson, you don't pull a Hugh. The last time Tyrod went through this, if you remember, Baker goes number one, and Hugh Jackson just straight up said, no, Tyrod's our starter. There's absolutely no competition. We're not even being open to it. And then you lose a game, and Tyrod gets hurt, and now you're backtracked already. So knowing what we're not getting into here, what we are getting into, it makes it even harder. But I would always just say this. Keep an open mind, and if Justin Herbert was good enough for you to draft that high, he will win the job. Just let him. Let the play decide and be open-minded to it. So many times these coaches make up their mind at the picks, and it usually ends up costing them losses.
Yeah, I hear you on that, KB. When it comes to having an open mind, that's basically being open to an open competition. And if you allow that to happen, then the best player that is going to lead your team will be your starter week one. Now, if it was up to me, I just love a rookie waiting, just sitting back, watching the game from bird's eye view. So I would say start Tyrod Taylor. And then you can, throughout the course of the season, tailor the offense so it fits Justin Herbert. And if you can do that, when he does suit up, when he does dress up, he won't be slacking. I mean, no pun intended on a play of words, but It is about catering your offense towards the individual. So if you're a rookie coming in, you want him to sit back and watch the game, learn it, because it is a different system, it is different terminology. But also, though, you want the team to learn him, though. There's going to be a couple of rookies, and we've seen it time and time again, that get thrown out into the flame, and then all of a sudden they can't handle the heat. So allow Tyrod Taylor to start. But like you said, KB, if he goes out there week in and week out and he's a better quarterback, then you put the young fella in.
It's such a debate. We do it every year, and there's so many stories on both sides. Like DeShone Kizer was thrown right in 2 years ago for the Browns. He wasn't ready yet, and I don't know if DeShone Kizer is going to have an NFL career moving forward. And yet the Seahawks drafted a guy in the third round named Russell Wilson, had Matt Flynn, had the late Travaris Jackson on the roster, and they said, gosh, we'd love for him to learn, but he's ready now. Let's put him out there. This year is very interesting, though, because for a rookie quarterback to start week one, you would have to say that this guy went into the virtual offseason and was able to command the room via Zoom and was able to learn an offense over a tablet and not doing it by studying in the facility. These Chargers players are not together right now. So to me, knowing that Tyrod Taylor has spent time with Anthony Lynn in Buffalo, knowing that Tyrod Taylor was with Anthony Lynn all last year, learning this Shane Steichen offense, you have to think with the virtual offseason, 2020, more than any other year, it is your advantage to go with the trusted veteran and the starter that you think at least knows how to work the room in the offense than a rookie who's never even met his teammates in person before.
I love this. I feel like you guys always tease me for wanting to sit, just in general, sit the rookie behind the quarterback that's already there, but now everything's a little bit different in the environment, so you guys are saying sit Herbert for now. Let's talk situations here, Kyle, because there's being a rookie quarterback, you have to consider the pressure of where you were drafted, but also the expectations of the team in that given year. So if you look at a team like the Chargers, that's a team that is very much expected to make it into the playoffs, whereas if you look at a situation like Burrow and the Bengals, that is definitely not the case. So what's a better situation, low expectations or a team with playoff hopes as a destination for one of these rooks?
I think playoff hopes. And speaking of situations, I love when Nate will do backflips talking about Taylor suiting up and stitching and slacks and then say, no pun intended. Nate, that's the very definition of intending a pun. But in terms of a good situation, of course we do. We love Nate's doing parkour around his basement, making wordplay, and then says no pun intended. I look at Ben Roethlisberger for an example. Comes into Pittsburgh, and they got all these legends defensively, and they're loaded. Even Tom Brady, Tom Brady steps in, and it's all these great defensive players. I actually think, and I don't know if this is a hot take or not, I think for a rookie quarterback coming in, I think I would rather have great defensive players on his team than great offensive players. There's so much talk about weapons around him. The ultimate weapon is this quarterback can't get anything going, but his defense is so good, he's still down only 6-0, and it's the third quarter. That's the situation. So with the Chargers, so loaded on defense, I don't even care for 1 second who they have on offense. That's what I want, a contender with pressure and defensive weapons.
Yeah, you mentioned the great players, and of course that's a necessity for any young player coming into the league, but also great expectations. If you're looking for a situation, you would want a young player to come in and know that the goal is to have a winning season. The goal is to try to make the playoffs, and the goal is to try to win a Super Bowl. I came in as a rookie playing with Dante Culpepper, who was one of the most confident men I've ever met. Randy Moss, who felt like he was the best wide receiver in the game. And Mike Tice, who was a former player, who told us every day how tough and strong we were. So I knew that the expectations were to go out there and win games, beat teams up, and try to make the playoffs. On the flip side, though, I would talk to guys during the season that played on teams that weren't playing well, and they didn't care about winning games. They didn't care about making the playoffs. All they cared about was that check that showed up every Tuesday on their locker room. And in their locker room, all they cared about was booking their vacation and shipping their car back home and going and kicking in the offseason. So the reason I bring that up is because if you're a young guy on a team that isn't drilling into his head that he should be trying to make the playoffs, that winning is bigger than the paycheck that's going into your direct deposit, then he's going to have that same type of mindset every single season. And once you do have a good enough team that can contend for a title and you try to relay that message, he's going to sit back and say, nah, I can care less. I'm here to collect my check. So make sure from the very start of their careers that you tell them, I don't care how much you make. We're trying to make the playoffs and then win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I think from a media perspective, sure, like Joe Burrow, no one's expecting him to win the Super Bowl, but if he had been drafted by the Patriots, there would be a lot more pressure on him and saying, okay, this team can do it. But I always go with the team, the coach, and the situation over expectations. Like Joe Flacco went to a Ravens team that had Ray Lewis, Ed Reed. They would obviously have all those offensive players around him, and they went to the playoffs, and they went to an AFC Championship game in his rookie year. Mark Sanchez, loaded Jets defense on a team that was coached by Rex Ryan, who preached defense. Like, I would always go to that situation, and I'm with Kyle on that. Veteran players in your corner are so important. Kyler Murray last year, he won NFL Rookie of the Year, and maybe he didn't tear it up the way that Lamar did or that Mahomes did. But Kyler Murray, you better believe he learned from not only Larry Fitzgerald, but he learned from Terrell Suggs. He learned from Chandler Jones. He learned from Patrick Peterson. I would think that you would rather go to the team that has the veteran presence and the leadership. And I think that's the Chargers as opposed to both the Dolphins and the Bengals right now. And I think Herbert is actually going to the best situation.
Do you have higher expectations for Herbert, given the team, given the completeness of the team, the playoff readiness of the team?
I think Burrow can be one of these guys that changes a franchise forever. So when you're the first overall pick and you're going to a moribund franchise that hasn't sniffed the playoffs in several seasons, I think I have a great desire to see Burrow work out. Herbert, if they go to the playoffs next year, I'm not necessarily sure it's because of Justin Herbert. If the Bengals do, it's because they rode the arm of Justin. Like, Andrew Luck came to a terrible Colts team in the post-Peyton Manning year, threw him on his back and said, let's go, in that Chuck Pagano cancer season where it was like this miracle ride. I think that's Andrew Luck's season. I don't know if Justin Herbert gets to the playoffs with the Chargers, if we're talking about Justin Herbert did this for the Chargers, or if it was like Melvin Ingram, Bosa, and Derwin James are pretty darn good.
Yeah, I only bring it up because it feels like the easy answer is, yeah, go to the team with the better setup, because you're going to have expectations that are high for you no matter what. You're a quarterback taken in the first round of the NFL draft, and Schrags, you more than